Okay, everybody. I think we'll get started now. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Peter Ryan. I'm with the marketing team here for the Autocall product brand, and I'm with JCI and based in our Massachusetts, Westford, Massachusetts facility. We got some people joining as we go along here, so I appreciate you taking the time out this afternoon to take part in our monthly Autocall Academy webcast. So couple quick items of housekeeping today. We're on WebEx, as you can probably tell. You do have the ability to ask a question verbally as well as through the chat interface. So what you can do is hit the Q&A interface on your system and then type in and send it to the hosts, and we'll see it and we can answer it in the stream. Or when we do the Q&A session, you can raise your hand using the cute little raise your hand icon, and we'll be able to open up your mic and we can have a dialogue. As a reminder, this session, like all of our webcasts, is being recorded, and what we'll do is we'll post it on the website, the Autocall website, in the webcast recorded section in the dealer protected area, and that'll be done probably tomorrow. And so everybody if anyone missed it, they can go ahead and listen to it, when they have time. So for today's agenda, we've got a really good cross-section of information for you spanning a whole range of topics. The first one is going to be an update from Roger Reiswig on the BSIU. This is a really interesting change that's coming that is already implemented in the code that affects how the management consoles are used and the rules for them. And it has a direct tie-in to some TrueSight workstation releases that are going to be coming very shortly. With updates and so forth. So Roger will bring us up to date on that. Then we have the Navigator team online, Jason Crouch and Chuck Caudill, to talk to you about the new Order Navigator system, which Jason introduced during our partner conference earlier this month, and also a really exciting new tool called the FQQ that is available to you now. Then the ZAP team will come on to talk to you about some enhancements that they've just released, and then Bruce will be on to talk about the 4003 EC voice panel that was released a few weeks ago, and then of course we'll finish up with a Q&A. So a good section today. I think we'll move along at a good pace and have plenty of time for questions and answers. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and flip the slides and pass it over to Roger. Roger, take it away.
Well, thanks, Peter, and good afternoon, good day, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Talk a little bit about the BSIU, something that's been added to NFPA 72 in the 2019 edition. And if you're sitting there saying, gee, BSIU, I've never heard of that before, well, don't be too alarmed. Many people are unfamiliar with this. So let's go ahead and just jump into it. I just have a few slides here on this. So NFPA 72 for many years now have been asked by industry, whether it's engineers or building owners, is there a way that I can use some type of a computer and have interaction with my fire alarm system, but I don't want to buy the big package that all the manufacturers offer? Is there a way that I can still maintain life safety, but be able to use a more economical way? And that was the challenge to the NFPA 72 committee. So they've tried to do this for a couple of cycles now, cycle being every 3 years for 72. And in 2019, they were successful. So one of the first things they have to do when you have a new term that's being used is you need to define it. So we have a new definition there in 3.3.34. BSIU, Building System Information Unit. It's a computer-based electronic device that's intended to display building information. Okay, not a big deal there. And execute system control functions. That's when all the red flags go off. As soon as somebody says we're going to be able to control the fire alarm system, make it a two-way street, that's when it all has to be UL listed for fire use. And that's been the roadblock for many years. So including fire system information display and control. So you could use this for mass notification, for building automation if you wanted to, other things. But you can see it's very generic in the definition. And then chapter 23, the protected premises chapter, is who put all of this together. So in 23.8.4.2, we have a new section for BSIU. And One of the first things that had to be addressed was the hardware. The hardware is one of the most expensive things to buy. When we do, in the Johnson Controls world, we call it a TSW, or True Site Workstation, and that package included a computer, or includes a computer. At Johnson Controls, we use Comar computers. We get our hardened 864 listed computer from them, and we add our software and some other things to it to make it part of our TSW package. Now, when we do that, and we go to UL, and we get it listed for fire use, UL documents, among many things, the CPU I use, how much RAM I use, is it single bank, dual bank, what the hard drive that I'm using, power supply that I'm using, all of that stuff is documented. And if a manufacturer comes to us and says, hey, I can give you twice as much hard drive space for half the price for your TSW that you're using, well, we can't just change it. I have to go to UL, and for something as simple as a hard drive, get them to review that and to issue that in my certification. So it's a big deal for us as manufacturers to go to UL and get a piece of hardware listed like this. Consequently, I need to then commit to a manufacturer and say, look, I'm going to sell X amount of these a year, and we're going to buy so many power supplies, and you get the idea. So that costs a lot of money for a lot of people to do that. So one of the things that NFPA looked at was, well, could we allow some other type of computer to be utilized that is hardened or more robust than just running down to a supply house and buying a computer off the shelf? So when the committee looked around, and they worked with UL on this, and they said, what are some computer listings that we could use that would be a little more robust that we could use in the fire alarm world? And that's where UL 6950 and 62368 came into play. So in chapter 23.8.4.2.1, they say that the computer needs to be listed to one of these two things. Now, what's nice about this is UL 6950 and 62368, they're off-the-shelf technologies, if you will, meaning it's not just used for fire alarm, it's not just used for security, it's used for a lot of different things in our world, in manufacturing, building automation, and what have you. So consequently, with them being more readily available and off the shelf, if you will, the price comes down. So the price point is much, much more economical for me to buy these. You know, for example, you can buy a UL 6950 computer off. I can look on Amazon and I can find one for $1,500 bucks. So they're much more economical out in the marketplace. So that takes care of the hardware side. When NFPA 72 said, let's make it so you have to use one of these two. And then the next part came into play, well, what about the software and the functionality of these things? So one of the questions or the concerns that's always come up has been, what if that computer goes down, it locks up, I can no longer have operational or interaction between the screen and the fire alarm network? So the committee worked on this and they said, okay, what if we require a fire alarm control unit to be in the same room, and if whatever you're doing at this new BSIU, if it fails, you're able to get up, walk across the room, and do the exact same function at that fire alarm control unit. So that gave us the redundancy or the ability to make sure that if the computer went down, we could still do what we wanted to do. Now, caveat is, if the fire alarm control unit on the wall can only do, let's say, 1,000 things, you can only interact with 1,000 devices or turn things on and off or what have you, that is what has to be limited at the BSIU. So for those that are familiar with a True Site Workstation, I can put that on a network of a bunch of Autocall panels that are out there, control units that are out there, and I can pretty much do everything. I can enunciate the entire network, I can interrogate it, I can turn things on and off, I can do everything from the TSW. With the BSIU, you may not be able to do everything anymore. And so that's kind of setting this up that it's a mid-level graphics package, if you will, because it's all going to be based on how much can I do with that fire alarm control unit in that same room. Now, if you don't have a fire alarm control unit in that room, again, it's probably going to be much more economical for you to buy the BSIU package and add a node or an annunciator to that same room of that facility. And again, the price point is what we're looking at. Instead of spending $40,000, $50,000 for a TSW for one of these large systems, you can buy a TSW or a BSIU for much, much less. And also, as a side point, I think this is a great selling opportunity for us to go out to our existing base of, let's say, smaller installations. Maybe it's one large fire alarm control unit, or maybe it's a small network of 2 or 3, but they just didn't want to spend all that money for a TSW. Well, for a fraction of the price, does a BSIU fit the need and can offer, some of these things that a building owner might want? And I think that's where the sweet spot, I think, is going to be for the industry, not just here at Autocall, but for all manufacturers to be able to go back to their, let's say, smaller install base, the smaller customer that they might have with just one system or a couple of control units. So let's go to the next slide, Peter. So when we put a BSIU in, it's got to be able to do what's ever on the wall, and that spells it out in chapter 23.8.4.2.2.1. The fire alarm control unit, the BSIU, shall not be permitted to perform fire alarm system control features that cannot be accomplished by the FACU in that room. So again, if you're disabling elevator recall or putting individual points on bypass or disabling them, or you want to turn NAC circuits on or off, you've got to be able to do the exact same thing by getting up and walking over to that control unit and accomplish that. If you can't do it on that control unit, you can't do it at the BSIU. And then in the annex for that, when the BSIU is not available to control the fire alarm in that room must be able to perform the necessary control functions without relying on the BSIU. So again, I think this is a good game changer in our industry that allows us to start to use these graphics packages that all manufacturers have had for years, and now we're able to bring it into more of the lower end customer, if you will. And then when we get into listings, one more slide here, Peter. So UL comes into play, and typically the driver for changes in the UL standards, the listing standards, comes from the codes and standards or research that happens in the industry. Not all the time, but most of the time, UL is the one that is being driven to do some kind of a change, whether it's for the smoke detectors we just went through, low frequency sounders that we did a few years ago, this BSIU. So when a document is written, UL reviews the document, in this case, NFPA 72. They review all the changes, and then they go and they look at the applicable standards and see what needs to be changed so that they can conform or offer what's now being allowed within NFPA 72. So with that, UL, Underwriters Laboratory, did not have a way for us to get graphics packages listed without them being a package, meaning the hardware and the software had to be taken together. The computer and the software had to be listed together. So UL needed to change that in UL 864 and write language in for this BSIU, and had to go through the committee, because UL doesn't just do this in a vacuum. They use the industry, and it's a consensus document, the standards, and all of the manufacturers, the enforcers, fire marshals, special experts, all come together, and they have to vote on the changes. I'm saying all of that because just because it was in 72 in 2019 doesn't mean all manufacturers can now go out and offer the product. Because although I already had the TSW software, I couldn't break it out and offer software only. So in May of last year, UL finally got the vote across and got the language added into UL 864 that allowed me as a manufacturer to go to them and say, let's now list software only. So so you're going to start to see a lot of different manufacturers offering this now that we're able to go through the UL process to get it done. So I just say all of that because that's why you're already hearing about it now. Why didn't you hear about this 2 years ago when NFPA took it upon themselves to add it into 72? Because I couldn't get it listed and I couldn't offer it as a manufacturer, but now we can. And then I have ETL listed here as well, or shown as well, is in the fire alarm world, actually the life safety world, we don't say in codes and standards must be listed by UL or UL listed product. Instead, they say listed by a nationally recognized testing laboratory, an NRTL. So you'll hear people talk about the NERDLs. It has a NERDL looked at getting that listed for you or certified for you. I say that because UL is the repository for all of the listing standards, and that's the not-for-profit side of UL. UL has two sides, the not-for-profit side and the UL LLC, the for-profit side. So once I have a product that I want to get listed, I can go to about 23 different entities, and they're all governed by OSHA as far as who can list product or certify product. The two biggest that are out there is UL and ETL. And I just wanted to take a couple of seconds and just talk about the ETL is another offering. It's kind of like saying, can you give me a Kleenex? Well, I have Scotty facial tissue. Well, yeah, it's the same thing. ETL is like UL. They both can list to the exact same standard. And you see some manufacturers that have chosen to use ETL in conjunction with UL or just use ETL solely by themselves. So again, I hope it kind of makes a little bit more sense about what's going on in the BSIU world and the listings and why it's taken the industry a little bit of time to catch up and really waiting on UL. And I think you're going to be seeing this coming out here very, very soon from Paul Nelson and the team. But with that, Peter, I'll stick around for questions later on, and I think that was it, my last slide.
Awesome. Yes, it was. Thank you so much. So now I'm going to pass it over to Jason Crouch to talk about some really great new developments with the Navigator program. Jason?
Thanks, Peter. I assume you can hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. And as Roger said, thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join this update. So my name is Jason Crouch, and I wanted to just talk a little bit about, a new exciting application that we're bringing to the Navigator family called Order Navigator. If you could just go to the next slide, please, Peter. So, what we're actually doing is we're hoping to go live this weekend with this new exciting application called Order Navigator, which will allow you to have complete order and shipment visibility within the Navigator platform. So with that, you'll be able to view order history and statuses, you'll be able to see the status of individual orders, and you'll be able to filter not only by status, by PO numbers, different order dates, requested by dates, etc. You'll also be able to track your shipments and see estimated delivery dates. We've got information on each order, such as requested ship date, original promise date, and current promise date, and also a number of tracking notifications. You can actually go down at each individual order level and set up email notifications, and you can be notified when something ships, if it gets delayed in transit, and actually when it's delivered. And the nice thing is with this, you can actually add people on the fly, right? So if you were having a particular order shipped to a contractor, you could notify them when it's shipped, and you could also be notified when it's delivered. So it's very, very flexible. So Peter, I don't know if you could allow my screen sharing, please. What I'm going to try and do is, I know when we did the Autocall dealer conference, I had a number of screen mock-ups in PowerPoint. What I thought I would try and do this afternoon, can you see my screen okay, Peter?
Yeah, we've got it. You're ready to go.
Great. What I thought I would do is show you, this is a mock-up account. It's not really in the Rails live account. I'm actually in one of our lower test environments, which is UAT, which is actually the environment right before we go to production. And this is where we do a lot of user acceptance testing. So this is just mock-up data. Mock-up data, nothing's real, but I thought it would be nice to try and show you a live presentation. It's always fairly risky doing this when we're in a lower environment, because there's always a risk of 1 out of 200 plus developers could do a check-in and completely crash me out of the system. But hopefully we'll be lucky in the next few minutes. So when you log into Selection Navigator, you're probably aware, you've all seen it, there's a My Order tracker on your dashboard. However, today it's completely blank. Hopefully come Monday morning when you log in, this will actually be populated with your live order history. And what we're planning to do is go back at least 1 year. For those of you that have been active partners for the last 12 months, it will show you complete order history on your dashboard. And with that, you can see the different columns, the order, the PO number, created, shipped to, requested, original promise date, current promise date, and the details at the end of the page. One of the things that's very noticeable is we now bind together and tie our order reference with your PO number. Yeah, and that becomes particularly useful in the searching, which I'll demonstrate in a moment. And we can also use these filters at the side to look at the different order statuses. Now, as I say, when I first log in, any user is going to see this populated, and they're also going to see this truck icon. So if I just click this truck now, it's just going to take me to a high-level shipment details page. This is what you'll see. So you'll get to this. This is one that's completed, but as I say, if one was in the submitted state or in the processing state, these dots would only progress accordingly. And as we come down, as this was one that has been completed, when I say completed, it's been shipped, we also show the brief order lines there of what was in that particular shipment. Now, if I go back to that main dashboard, the other part of this is what we call the Order Navigator app, and you're only going to see that if you've been granted the permissions for Order Navigator. So this button here, which is going to take you straight to, it's like a short circuit, straight into the app, into the Order Navigator details. So I'm just going to click on that to give you an example. So it kind of dives deeper and gives you more information. And here, as you can see, it starts listing those items on that particular order. And also here, I've got the option to manage some notifications. So we've just got some examples in here. As I say, this is mock-up test data, but this is where you can add email recipients, and you can also choose, do you want to be notified when it departs, if it's delayed in transit, or when it's delivered. So I'm just going to go back to the dashboard. So what we're going to do is, so every user is going to get everything I've shown here and the truck icon. What we're going to do when we set this up, we're going to automatically in the back end enable all delegate admins to have access to Order Navigator. So standard users that are non-delegate admins can request access. And just similar to adding a new user to account, delegate admins can go in and grant those permissions to Order Navigator, and then that will become available. Now, as you can see, I can't see the application as a favorite because I wanted to show you how you derive at that. But delegate admins, when they log in, if you click the applications, you're going to see, at the moment, you're going to see Configure and Training, Configure Selection Navigator. If I click on Order, you can see the app down here. If I just click that star, it's going to say, would you like to make this application a favorite for all accounts that have access? I'm going to put yes. So now if I just do a refresh and go back to my dashboard, you can see now I've not only got Selection Navigator, but Order Navigator is dominant because I selected it as a favorite. And I can also remove that as well. Not sure why you'd want to do that, but it makes sense, I believe, to have these. It's much easier to then enter and go into the application. If I click on the Order Navigator app, this is going to take me straight into my order history, where I can actually see all my orders. And again, I've got a number of different criteria here where I can search, from an order number, the actual status. I can do from and to dates and a part number search, and I can say is it ship complete, is it one that was recently viewed, and I get a full list of orders. And as I say, we actually tie together our reference number with your PO number. And just one thing to note on this screen, if this at the moment says non-web order, so just remember that, 'cause I'm going to come on to a few slides at the end of this and just to explain what we're doing, some changes in Selection Navigator. But what that basically means, a non-web order, is that your order was sent via Selection Navigator like it is today, via email, and it's processed manually by our customer services team. What's going to happen going forward is that order is going to automatically go into our ERP system, and then you'll get a confirmation number come up there. And this data is refreshed hourly. So, you know, that's the longest wait time, I guess, is 59 minutes if you just miss the cycle from an order being processed to being updated on my order tracker or in this order history. So I'm just going to pop back to the dashboard. Just two other things I would like to show that it may not be apparent. We've also introduced a new WalkMe, which is like a self-help training guide. You've probably noticed this need help. We've only got a couple of walkthrough examples available, but this will grow over time. So if I click this need help, it's going to say, okay, what do you want help with? And at the moment I say we've only got two. But so I want to add a user to an account, and then you're going to get a guided bot taking you through step by step on how to complete that process. And I say more of these intuitive guides are being added. The other thing is, well, when you get to the home page and you've got your PO number, you don't have to click anything. I can go to this main search bar at the top, and I can just paste in my order number and do search. Automatically associates your PO number with our reference number, and then I can click on that, immediately drill down to the details. So you can do, so in the interest of reducing the number of mouse clicks, you can use this global search bar at the top here. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now, Peter, and if you could kindly revert back to the slide deck.
All right, you should have it.
Yep, I can see it if you could. So what I just wanted to talk to you, a couple of things that are coming, which are planned for the end of March. So if you could kind of go to the next slide, Peter. So this is with regards to Selection Navigator. So the way that we're going to be submitting order in Selection Navigator, is changing. This is really only going to affect customers that are directly on our barn ERP system in the US. So USA dealers and customers actually that are in Latin America, because they formulate the same ERP system. And as we go forward, we'll be integrating other ERP systems into this platform. But you're probably all aware of the current process. So the current process is the order email. So when you submit an order in Selection Navigator, we basically send that order as an email to our customer services group mailbox, and we include a number of attachments. The order PDF is a 4100 attachments for like layout files. And then that order is manually entered into our ERP system. At the end of the March, when we turn this on, those orders will automatically get sent to our barn ERP system. We will still use the email to send to the project owner, like a copy for you, and that same email will go to any recipients on the CC list that are populated in the order UI, but the actual order is going to bypass customer services and go straight into our ERP system. We'll also send the attachments to a secure server, which can be accessed by our manufacturing and application engineering, which is needed for 4100 placement files. And the last slide, please, Peter. And as I say, this will actually be transparent. So what will happen is we detect in the session, in that particular browser session, we determine by account and which price book we're using, what method we will use in our order UI. So you won't have to select anything. If you're one of the customers that's going to go seamlessly through to the ERP, I just wanted to be aware of some changes. So the build to and the the customer service fields will be locked out, because obviously we're going to use the build to that's set up in our primary ERP system, and the customer service identity no longer applies. And then the freight forwarder, the payment terms are locked, and we've updated the shipping methods to align with our ERP system. So as I say, this part is looking to go live at the end of March, but it will be seamless, but you'll notice a different UI. So with that, Peter, that really concludes my presentation, and I would like to hand over to Chuck, who's going to walk through the featured quick quote.
Peter, can you guys hear me okay?
Sure can, Chuck. I'm handing it over to you right now.
Perfect. All right, so I'm going to share my desktop. Let me know when you can see. Okay.
We got it.
All right. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Chuck Caudell. And so I'm going to talk to you about the feature quick quote. The feature quick quote is a direct response to voice of the customer feedback. You guys told us we love Selection Navigator, allows us to build systems, to do complete calculations, everything we need, but sometimes we're looking just for a quick number. To give you an example, one of our dealers says, I quote 100 projects a month. If we're lucky, we earn 10 of them. And at that point, then I'll go in, I'll take a deeper dive and actually do the configuration and get my calcs. But for that 100, I need to get in and out quick. So looking at the feature quick quote, what it does, it's a spreadsheet tool. It provides a rapid, fluid interface for selecting your products. There's a logical selection process and flow. It will generate a file which you can import into Selection Navigator for pricing. It does provide some useful calculations, an estimated number of loops, ID NACs, repeaters, MACs, keeper-wise, and cable calcs. And then you as a user can set up your base preferences, such as wire gauge, spare design capacity. It has easy to navigate sections. So I'm going to open it up here, and anyone that's seen our ID NAC point-to-point tool, this should look familiar because we've taken FQQ and wrapped it in together. So if I open this and I use the circuit designer, I would go in and actually build my IDNet circuits. If I go to the quick quote, we start off in the IDNet page, and the tabs are here across the bottom as well as the top. And first thing I want you to know is everything in light blue can be changed. These are editable functions. So floor 1, floor 2, floor 3, etc. These might be the takeoffs that you're doing. Or for another example, might be electrical page E101, E102, E103. The next thing you'll notice is the spare capacity. If I want to make sure that I never overload my 250-point loop more than 280%, then I would say, well, leave me 20% spare capacity here. You don't have to do this, but this is the default for us. So down here, again, light blue are things you can modify. The center section will show my totals. Here we've listed all of our IDNet devices, and we've gone ahead and paired them with their accessories. So like a smoke detector with a standard base, this is a 9714 smoke with a 9792 base, and you don't have to go down and find the smoke and go find the base separately. So if I choose this and say, well, I want 25 of these, it's automatically going to populate and say, okay, you need 25 addresses. You have 25 unit loads, which actually unit loads, for anybody that doesn't know, that's our supervisory current. We calculate the supervisor using that unit load. At the bottom, I'm still good with one IDNet channel because I've only got 25 points on. But if I say 225, now it'll pop up and say, well, because you said you don't want to exceed 80% capacity, now we're going to need 2 IDNet channels. So all of the features, all of the IDNet devices here, put it back to 50, something manageable. Our smoke detectors are listed with all the different bases. Our heats are the same way. The photo heat combos. Duct detectors are listed out. This is just a duct detector. This is a duct detector with an LED. This is one with a test station. Sampling tubes are here. When we get down into our IMs, relay IMs, ZAMs, all these are listed a couple different ways. This is just the module. This is the semi-flush plate, and this is the surface mount plate. So it's all laid out individually. You can check all of your IDNet devices on one sheet without having to move back in like you have to do with Selection Navigator. So let's move to the IDNAC page, and it's very similar. That E101 or floor 1 that I designated on the first page automatically moves over to the subsequent pages. If I have something different I want to override, then I put it here, and it will change it just for this page. So this looks kind of familiar. We need 20% spare capacity, But here, because I'm looking at notification devices, I'm going to assign any speakers. I'm going to tell them which average them at 1 watt so I can keep track of how many watts I need. My wire length is here, my wire gauge, imperial or metric on my feet. And then this middle section, again in white, I don't modify these. I modify them by choosing things down below. This is a little different as well because we have ID NAC devices. Every system has ID NET devices, but not every system has voice. And not every system, some might have horn strobes only. So you have the ability to choose these devices as you wish. You can customize this sheet, and maybe I might put all of my speaker devices up top. You do this by the drop down. You can set the device, candela, and the color on your sheet however you like it. You might save this in 2 templates, have a voice template and a non-voice template, for example. That way when you open it up, it's right there what you want to begin with. So as I come down to these wall speaker strobes, let's choose a 110 candela, pretty heavy candela, and I'll say 50 watts or 50 devices. Up top, it says, all right, you've chosen 50 addresses, 50 unit loads takes care of for the supervisory. I need 6,600 mils worth of power to make it work, and 50 watts of amps. So when I look down here, there's a couple boxes. This top one says, well, how many ID NACs do I need if I'm not using repeaters? Strictly, ID NACs off the panel. I'll need 3. But the next line down says, well, I have plenty of addresses, 127 on channel. I want to use 1 ID NAC. How many repeaters will I need? And there's 2 additional repeaters. So that, that gives you there's 9 watts of power there that you need in 6,600. So let's move to the conventional NAC. It's done exactly the same way with all the same features. The only difference is these devices that you can set up your own are non-addressable. They're conventional devices. So we realize that not everything is purchased from JCI, so we have third-party items as well here. So you might do your electrical permitting costs, your drawing and plan review. You can set, again, these are in blue, so you can set these quantities or these prices in quantities, hours it takes and unit cost. Bear in mind that just because I make a change here, I haven't chosen it, I need to choose it over in this column. So if I have 1 permit for the job, it will now populate. The middle section has subcontractor costs, electrical, tie-ins, conduit, whatever you want to work in there. And at the bottom, you might put something such as wire, FPLP, 16-2 untwisted pair, 1,000-foot roll. That's my SKU. Cost me $200. I have no idea anymore what wire costs, so don't laugh at me. And then over here is where you would choose it. So moving from here, next we go into a panel configurator. And while I realize Selection Navigator, you could build your panels there and then bring all these field devices in one shot. Let's remember that the 4007 is a pre-configured panel. It's off the shelf. You tell us what you want. So why not include it here and make your life a little bit simpler? So we've designed this there's 3 hybrid versions, which are the conventional NACs on the top, and 3 addressable versions, ID NAC on the bottom. You would set these up. Again, this is a user-defined. You would go through and say, well, I want this flavor panel to be a red instead of platinum. I'm going to use all 250 points instead of the 100, 175, and 250, which are different levels. I'm going to have a DACT on it. I don't want a network. I do want an enunciator, and there's my battery, which is pretty standard, the battery requirements. And then, do I want batteries, yes or no? Maybe you don't want to include your batteries. These are things you set up ahead of time, and you save this as part of your template. Then, after you've done that, you come through and say, well, for this project, I need 1 panel. You choose it, and automatically it will get added to your bill of materials. So moving to the next tab, another request we had from you, the customer, was I use Bluebeam. It's a takeoff tool. If anybody doesn't know what it is, it's a PDF takeoff tool that you can set to scan the page, or you can run down and choose the items, and it will make a list for you of devices. There's an export file with that, and it is a CSV, Excel comma separated value format that lets you output that. You can bring this in one shot. So maybe you don't do any of these tabs across the top here. You've got a Bluebeam file. So we have set a master library here. What we've done, we've mapped this phrase exactly, smoke detector, standard base, means we're going to provide a 9714 and a 9792. And up in here, I can determine how do I want this to come in. I want this to come into column 1, column 2, column 3, etc. And which library am I going to use? Because maybe you're a brand new guy who's never seen Bluebeam and you're going to go purchase it. and you'll use our library. But maybe you already have a library, so let's scroll over here, and this is the user-defined library, and you, like this top line, I changed it to addressable smoke. And if I come here and say, well, I'm going to, instead of using yours, I'm going to use my custom library, you see that over here, this addressable smoke, it now is mapped to those two items, just like the other ones. So let's go back. I'm going to change back to the master library, and I'm going to import a page. So if I say import a CSV drawing, I have one saved on my desktop already. There it is, Bluebeam devices. And when I import it, it's going to bring them all in, and I have a little box that pops up and says, well, hey, Chuck, I don't see these items. You know, obviously a text box not found, line not found, these aren't a big deal. But this one item is. This feeling strobe seeker ceiling mount, 75 candela. Why didn't it find them? Well, because we don't make an ID-NAC 75 candela ceiling mount weatherproof. We do it in 135 and 185. So it didn't fail. You didn't fail in your import. It just says, I didn't find this line. So you run that down and check it out. So we have these devices here. So let's move forward into labor. This, again, was another request. It'd be nice to be able to keep track of our labor. So right now, all these light blue items, you can set these. And you can say, well, in our office, it takes us 15 minutes to put a smoke detector in. But whatever these numbers are, you would set the base parameters and save it in your template. And what am I going to use to populate? Because right now, these are all zeros. So let's go back, and we can choose to grab stuff from the ID-NAC point-to-point designer. Well, I didn't show you, but I've already chosen 3 multi-tone horns. So they are 30, I'm sorry. 30, 30, and 30. That's the base, the cover, and the appliance. Or I can say, I'm going to bring in stuff just from the quick quote. If you'll remember, we had our 50 detectors and some panels and such. Or I'll do the file import, which is that Bluebeam file. Maybe I want to use all 3. You have the ability to choose all of them. Right? And what it will do, it will calculate, and you have installation, commissioning, and service times. So you can come down to the bottom, and you'll have your totals. You can use that to export over it. You can do your math and figure out how much labor do we have via the products that we've chosen. And then if I go to the Bill of Materials tab, it uses the exact same 3 filters. So I turn them all off. I have nothing here. First one gives me the ID-NAC, those 30 devices. Second one gives me the panel and those 50 smokes. And then finally is the Bluebeam import. This allows us, what's the end game? Why did I do all this? I want to create a file that I can export, that I can bring into Selection Navigator. And that's done right here. Create a CSV file, and it will pop up and say, well, we're ready. Where do you want it to go to? And so I would save it somewhere where I know, possibly my desktop. I've already done it, so I'm going to cancel, and let's skip over to Selection Navigator. I've got a project that I'm running. I go to the Products tab, just like you would if you were going to add a smoke detector or any other item. Oops, I've kept it open too long. My apologies. I have to sign in again. Stand by for technical difficulties. I've had it open for 2 hours. My apologies. Okay, so I'm at the Products tab. I'm going to add a product. And you guys see all these normal buttons you're used to. And down here is the Import Fast Source Smart Panel. What this will let you guys do is import those CSV files, export from those 2 programs. We're not using those anymore. We're trying to wean everybody off and use System Navigator, the System Selector. You can still import that file here. And in the future, we're going to change this to import a CSV file, some other nomenclature. So when I click it, all I have to do is go find that file. It's on my desktop. It is the Bill of Materials. I would choose it, open, and then I would upload. I've already done that as well, so let's just, in the interest of time, so let's take a look at what it looks like. So when I go, it's all one line item. There's a bunch of pieces, and there's a change of view to Bill of Materials view, and they are all here. Now you'll notice the lock symbol. This was by design when it was the Smart Panel or Fast Tool, because we didn't want you to accidentally mess up, the number of ESPS power supplies that you built. So in the future, when we go completely away, we're going to unlock these. So on the fly, you can come and say, well, actually, I meant to have 290 smoke detectors instead of 289. They'll give you some flexibility. So that is it as far as the way the tool works. There's some show you, if you didn't get this, there should have been an email that came out this morning. Everybody should have gotten it that said, hey, we're releasing these things. Feature Quick Quote was talked about. The TrueSight stuff is here, Canadian product, the 4003. If you didn't get this email, how do I get this access to this? We'll go back to, I've got Autocall here. I am logged in. Something to make sure you log in so you can get behind into the dealer section. Something simple as typing FQQ in the top here. We'll bring you to, there's a couple search. This is the announcement that went out and the tool, or you get just the tool. And then we've also made this available to architects and engineers who aren't dealers and they don't have to log in, because this tool has no pricing by design. We don't want any pricing because then we would have to make sure that you always have the most current version. The idea is create the files, bring it in, and we'll send the pricing and sell that. But for that reason, we encourage architects and engineers to use our tools, to be very comfortable with IDNAC and all the different things, so they'll spec our products. Last thing, if you want to make sure you're on the mailing list from now on, then you would go to dealers, email communications, and then if you haven't signed up, I've already signed up here, so it doesn't show up. But you can sign up, and then from that point on, you'll always be in the know about our information. So that's it for the FQQ. If you have any questions, we welcome your feedback. We'd love to hear, what do you guys want in the future, or do you find a problem with the program? You can go to the help information on the homepage of this program, and you can find my info and Jason Crouch's info. And again, we'd love to hear from you. Peter, I'm all set. Thank you.
All right, fantastic, Chuck. Thank you so much, and thank you, Jason, as well. These are, really great tools, and I know these are things that a lot of you have been looking for in the Autocall world, and these should, really make it a lot easier to quote systems and then to see where your status is. So I'm hoping you're as excited about these as we are. So now we're going to switch gears, and we're going to do a quick overview of the ZAP enhancements, and that's going to be presented by Rodrigo. So Rodrigo, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Yes, sure. Well, good evening, everyone. This is Rodrigo Manucci. I'm the product manager for ZAP. Well, can you go to the next slide, please? So I'm here today to talk a little bit about the newest pieces of functionality that we recently released in ZAP. The first one is the bulk retrieve previous answer. So this functionality basically is allowing inspectors to select one or many devices in one go and then retrieve the previous answers that were specified in the previous inspection. Could be the previous year, could be the previous month. So we are going to pick up that information from that previous inspection, and we are going to answer the current inspection with those specific questions. However, though, retrieving previous answer doesn't replace the fact that the inspector still needs to pass and fail the devices. So this is just an enhancement, and in order to improve the efficiency of the inspection, to retrieve those important information in every inspection. For example, in extinguisher inspections, it's very valuable for the inspector to retrieve when was the last 6-year maintenance test performed, or when was the last 5-year maintenance test performed. So the inspector can retrieve those previous answers and then pre-populate the current inspection with that information. This specific feature is not only for extinguishers. It can be applied on any of the default inspection types that we offer by default when you use ZAP. The next feature that I would like to add, and I'm really, really happy about that one, is add images to device notes. So I believe that everybody has already heard before that one picture tells more than 1,000 words. And this is exactly what we have done. Previously in ZAP, we have the functionality to add notes to devices. It was a really, really powerful feature and a really well used as well. Inspector were able to add information that was populated from inspection to inspection, enabling that communication between different inspectors, or even enabling the communication between the office people and the inspector using the device notes. What we are doing now is taking that feature to the next level. We are enabling inspectors to add up to 6 pictures. And not only we are allowing them to add pictures, but they can do as well annotations to reinforce those areas that needs more attention. With this feature, the inspector or the final company will be in the position to hand over a more professional and robust final report to your customers, because it's not just going to be a bunch of devices that has been passed and failed, but as well, you are going to have the support with images that are related to those specific nodes. So we are really happy. We've had already really good feedback from the field and inspectors. They love this feature, and yes, I'm very excited to see where the inspectors take that feature in the future. Can you go to the next slide, please? And yes, so we are really, really excited to let everybody know that we released the Android application. It's now available in the Google Play Store, and you can go to the Google Play Store and download it, and then use it if you have a valid SAP license. I would like to take the advantage of this time to talk a little bit about a new feature that we released as well in the Android application. And in order to close that gap between the features that we currently offer in the iOS application and the features that are supported currently in the Android application, we are constantly releasing enhancement and improvements in the Android application. I would like to talk a little bit about the new feature that we have just released, and it's about the scanning barcodes using the phone camera. That's a well-used functionality that was present in the iOS application, but now all the Android users will have the possibility to use the same functionality in their Android phones. So this is a very, very important feature that enables that increase in the efficiency to perform inspections in order to find really quick every single device when the system or the site has been barcoded, and as well to have that extra level of certainty that you are really passing and failing or inspecting the correct device at any given time. Peter, can we go to the next slide, please? And yes, well, I would like to, before I conclude, to encourage you to contact your ASMs to ask any questions that you may have about SAP. And of course, if you want to request a demo, we are more than happy to set a personalized demo for you and your company. We would like to really show you how can SAP help you out to increase the efficiency and streamline the inspection process that you can have in your own company today. With that being said, Peter, I believe it's all over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rodrigo. So for our final piece today, last but not least, as they say, we're going to introduce Bruce Marion. Bruce is the product manager for the 4003 EC Emergency Voice Communications Panel, which I think is a product that's been really eagerly awaited by all of you. So, Bruce, can you take a few minutes to tell us about it?
Sure. Thanks, Peter. Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for attending. As Peter previously said, it was not that long ago that the 4003 EC system was introduced, and I've been asked to kind of go over some details with regard to the system. The 4003 EC is a multi-function small audio and voice evacuation system. Some of the main features with regard to the system is it provides 8 default digital messages that cover a variety of applications that you may run into in the field for a variety of different types of emergency situations that may be in a building. But in addition to that, excuse me, you do have the ability to customize or order custom messages for the 4003 EC as needed. There are 13 available pre-tone options that are built into the system, and it has input ability to accept input from a variety of emergency communication systems that you may find out in the field. It allows for up to 18 remote microphones, so it will support things like LOCs for a variety of, say, small military installations. And it also allows for a variety of amplifiers to be added on for remote expansion. Something to be thinking in terms of this smaller audio package is you may have a building that has currently, or in the future, you may have a building that will be utilizing a smaller panel that's non-audio. And really where the 4000 EC helps is to allow you to bolt on or add audio capability to some of these smaller systems that are non-audio. Can I have the next slide, please, Peter? Some of the basics of the panel itself is that it provides 40 watts of audio power with a single Class B audio circuit, either 25 or 70 volt. And the system is a single channel system. It also allows for a 2-amp strobe circuit to be utilized in some of these smaller applications, and will support up to 33 ampere-hour batteries in a remote cabinet, 12 ampere-hour batteries inside of the main panel itself. Listed to the normal standards, FM and UL 864, it has alarm and trouble and AC trouble contacts built into the panel that can be monitored by the adjacent fire panel that it's connected. And it has the ability to be used in 120 volt and 240 volt systems with beige and red cabinets. And it's relatively small, so it can be located in actually some very tight spaces, closets, and so forth. Can I have the next slide, please? So some of the applications that you may find the Autocall 4003EC, again, is primarily with use of smaller systems. So you may use it as a bolt-on to the 4007ES system, or it may even be used as a bolt-on for a competitive panel that you may find existing in a building now, where maybe a section of the building in a multiple occupancy building now needs audio to be added, maybe a small assembly type of an area, an auditorium or something that's been added to a building where the whole building doesn't need to be audio, but you may need only a small portion of the building to be audio. So some of the features that it allows for is that it can be used as a standalone PA system. Again, it can be bolted on with a fire alarm system. It does allow for audio for things like background music to be connected. There's a variety of different ways that it can be attached or interfaced with a fire alarm system, hardwired off of NAC circuits, relay contact closures. There's a variety of ways that this system can be interconnected with a fire alarm system. Typically used for things like emergency evacuation and ECS. And again, it supports a variety of remote booster amplifiers that we're going to cover here soon. Typically, you'll find the applications being maybe small churches, small school auditoriums, places where a small single channel system that's cost effective can be utilized in these types of applications. Another great feature with regard to it is that it synchronizes with our Autocall strobes as well as the Eaton or Cooper Wheelock appliances as well. So the protocols for both of those types of strobes are built in. Can I have the next slide, please? A remote microphone plate is available with a variety of LEDs on the microphone plate. Again, a variety of different microphones can be used, one within an LOC if a local operating console is needed, like in a military application, as well as potentially the microphone on the plate offered in a lobby in a building. The microphone plate does have a key lock to prevent unauthorized access, so somebody would need a key to be able to use it. Mounts on a standard 4-gang electrical box. And again, it's also available to be included in the local operating console, which is an option for the system as well. Can I have the next slide, please, Peter? So one of the amplifier cabinets that's available to be bolted on if you need more power than the 40 watts that are included in the system is an 80-watt amplifier. This amplifier has 2 strobe circuits that are built in. It can support Class B 25 and 70 volt speaker circuits, can charge up to 33 ampere-hour batteries with 12 ampere-hour in the enclosure itself. There's also a 160 watt amplifier, which really are 2 of the 80 watt amplifiers in a single enclosure. Again, can charge up to 35 ampere-hour batteries or 12 ampere-hours inside of the enclosure. And then lastly, a 320 watt amplifier cabinet with 4 of the 80 watt amplifiers all contained in a single enclosure with the same battery charging capability. So the ability to add these amplifiers into a system above 40 watts gives this small audio system the capability to really be able to be modified in the event that you need more than 40 watts of power. Next slide, please. So some of the part numbers to just be aware of is the A003-9301, which is the beige version, and 9302 is the red version, and then the 9304 is a beige version that's a 240 volt version of the main panel. Next slide, please.
Oh, and Bruce, I just wanted to cut in
Yes,
the launch materials and the presentations are posted on the website, so they certainly can hop up there and search for the 4003 EC and get access to all the documentation whenever they need it.
Yeah. So with regard to these part numbers and so forth, again, although they're all listed here, it's a pretty wide offering that allows us to, or allows you to expand the system dependent on the application that you need it for. So 80 watt amplifiers in 3 different versions, 160 watt amplifiers in 3 different versions, and then the larger 20 watt amplifier that's also available in a couple of versions. So a lot of different options that allow you to meet whatever the customer need for the building is. Next slide, please. A variety of accessories are available for this system. These accessories can be utilized for a whole variety of applications. There are AB splitters that allow you to take the existing Class B 40 watt speaker circuit and split that speaker circuit up and allow you to configure a Class A circuit if it's needed rather than the Class B circuit. There's an addressable paging splitter that's available. If you have a need to interface with a telephone system in the building, there is a telephone zone controller that's available for the system. Supervised volume controls, which you may typically find in some military installations where individual speakers in rooms may need to have volume controls individually for those rooms. Local operating consoles are available for the system as well, and a remote battery cabinet. So many, many options are available to configure a system based on the needs of the project. Can I have the next slide, please? So to summarize the 4003 EC system, it's a very cost-effective solution where a small single-channel audio system may be needed in an entire building or maybe only a portion of a building. It can be triggered from any Autocall panel or even a small competitive panel as needed. It allows for the amplifier and NAC circuits to be expanded beyond the 40 watts of power. 8 default recorded messages in the system, but also allows for custom messages to be programmed. One of the other things that can be done, I don't know how many people do it, but there also with this system is the ability at the 4003 EC to utilize the local microphone and hand record or field record messages if a customer requires that as well. It supports local operating consoles. It allows for integration with a variety of emergency communication systems that may be included in the building as well. It has the ability to override telephone input that may be coming in from a telephone system, as well as other lower priority messages if a fire alarm situation or emergency situation were to be keyed into the system. A note here that Selection Navigator has a dedicated 4003 EC configurator in your CellNav instance that allows you to include all of the expansion amplifiers and all of the options that we've quickly reviewed here to be able to configure a system based on your customer's needs. Can I have the next slide, please, Peter? And I guess that's it for me.
That's right. All right. Thank you so much, Bruce. So that's the end of the formal program today. We've heard the presentations, and looks like we've got, at least a good 15, 20 minutes for questions. So I'm looking on the Q&A poll and the chat windows, rather, and there are no questions typed in. So at this point, if anyone wants to ask any questions, go ahead and type them in or raise your hand with the hand icon. We'll see them, and we will go ahead and unmute you and let you ask them. So while we're waiting for some questions to come in, I just wanted to reinforce a couple of things. Jason and Chuck, you were talking about the launches. The FQQ is already available. I put that up on the website yesterday, and the bulletin went out today. So the FQQ is live, both public and in the dealer portal. And when is the Order Navigator going live? Did you say this weekend?
Yes, please. Can you hear me now? Yeah, Peter, we're planning to go live onto production this weekend. And that will be done in some phases, so it will get turned on. And then the next thing we're going to do is load the order history on Sunday. And once that's completed, we're looking to enable the delegate admins of the respective accounts with automatic rights to Order Navigator. So in theory, if everything goes to plan, it should be live on Monday morning for you.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I don't know if I can put you on the spot here a little bit, Paul, but see if Paul's still on board. Maybe I can't put him on the spot. Or maybe even Tony, if I could maybe ask you. I know that we just had a good talk from Roger on the BSIU, and I also know that we're working on the next version of TSW and the release. So Tony, if I could, maybe put you on the spot a little bit here, could you tell us a little bit about the next version of TSW? What's coming out? Yes, I just unmuted you.
Okay, good, Peter. Yeah, I was going to say I don't know that I can unmute myself, but
no, I did.
So TSW is, we're calling it TSW 2020, is kind of in the final throes of being released. We, back just this week, I think, got approval through UL for the next set of revisions that we're, putting in place. Obviously, there's several next steps to go before we can launch it, but I would expect in the next few months here, we should be able to launch the new TSW 2020 with a lot of new features, including 3D graphics and some of the other things that I think are going to be well received in the field.
Yeah, fantastic, Tony. Thank you. We did some work with the design team in Cork to redo the icons and the buttons and so forth on the TSW. I think it looks great, and I think the new graphics look really nice.
Yeah, I think they almost mounted it after the Medisys program, you know, and if you have a chance to look at that, it's really kind of state of the art. So I'm really excited about getting this one out as well.
Awesome, fantastic. Thank you, Tony. Thanks for letting me throw that to you. We did have one question come in the line here from Mike Doucette. And Bruce, I think this might be for you. He says, is T3 coding available on the 4003?
Yes, that is the default coding for the cadence that would be put out on the tones. Yes.
Fantastic, and that's a really nice solution, Bruce. I like that because you can take a smaller installation like a 4007 or a 4010 and couple it with the 4003, and you know, then you don't have to. Without the 4003, you had to migrate up to a 4100, right? Which is definitely a cost and capacity issue.
Exactly, but to me, and I pointed it out a couple of times that that I would actually think would be somewhat common out in the field is to have an existing building with a small non-audio fire alarm panel and have maybe a part of the building change its occupancy as such to where that particular part of the building needs audio. And so you certainly wouldn't want to go back and have to replace an entire fire alarm system in that type of an instance, and the 4003 EC is a perfect bolt-on solution for something like that.
Gymnasium is a good example of that.
Absolutely.
Where they add on the gym to a small church that has a standard system and not required to go voice, that's a perfect application.
Right, and actually, Roger, you might want to jump on this one too. But I'm also hearing from the stuff that I've been seeing, there's been a big change in the market where schools, like small schools, like K through 12, are starting to use voice now, even though they're not of a size that requires it.
Yeah, great point. A lot of building codes are requiring if you have more than 50 students, you need to do an audio system. And that was in response to having, you know, mass notification systems weren't installed, at least to have some way to communicate to people. Department of Defense, almost every building now will have a voice system, almost regardless of its size. You know, I absolutely see in the next decade or so horns being used very, very seldom, and almost everything going to voice.
Awesome. So again, this gives you a a nice cost-effective package to go after that marketplace with. Bruce, I don't know if you're looking at the chat screen. Chuck is asking about T4, and Mike came back and asked about T3 again. Do you see that? I don't know, Mike. We could open up your mic if you want to ask the question. But do you see it, Bruce? The chat window?
I don't.
Okay, he says, are you sure we just put one in and T3 was not an option? It was only pre-alert.
I'd have to double check that then. I don't know why we wouldn't have T3. That's such a common thing.
It does. I mean, because I've installed this. You know, this is the Eaton product that enables for us, and I installed it back in 2010, and we did voice evac with leading with temporal 3 coding. I wasn't sure about the temp 4 if it had that option.
T4 is not built into it by default. No.
All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I think we can go ahead and type it in real quick. We'll do a last call here, so we can go ahead and let everybody go for the day if we're done through the content. Yep, exactly, Mike. I was just going to say that for sure. For Dan Chauvin, yeah, we'll definitely look into that and get back to everybody, and we'll make sure that we post some Q&A when we put this out on the website. Like I said, this will be recorded, and we'll let you know when it's posted up there. But I hope everybody got use out of the information today. I think this is a great step forward. I really like the 4003 EC and the advancements that the sales tools team is bringing forward. I think it's fantastic. And of course, we keep innovating with Zap, which is also great. We'll be going ahead and booking the March issue of this call. So we'll send out a survey along with the the recordings. Please email me, fill it out in the survey. Let us know what you want to hear about. Of course, these are absolutely, the only point of doing these is to be useful for you. So any topics, new or old, that you want to hear about, please let us know. And we will we will go ahead and we'll go ahead and get that content into the systems. With that, I guess we'll call it quits for today. And again, we'll send out this via all the emails. Thank you so much. Have a great day and be safe. Thank you.